you can speak to this given your experience in dealing with mass tort fire, uh, getting over billions of dollars for your clients, the amount of lawyers, people, I don't want to point it on any individual that try to take advantage in this situation. Uh, Whether you have lawyers that focus on civil or criminal defense, and now they're trying to come in and jump in here, and why it is important that in this situation, and I'll say it, it is important that you're not hiring a lawyer that's focusing on discrimination. You're not looking at this from that standpoint. You're dealing with someone with lawyers that have experience in dealing with this specific type of issue and getting you the results that you need. Can you talk more to that and why you see there may be grounds for a lawsuit in this Eaton fire, Altadena fire? I know that was a lot, but I just wanted to really now allow you to talk.
Here's reality is every lawyer who's handling the fire claims, as against the utility, if the utility is responsible, and it's being investigated, but there certainly appears to be good evidence that there may be utility company involvement in starting the Eaton fire. And so that's being thoroughly evaluated. And so, lawyers, they're all different stripes of lawyers. And there are some that have a wealth of experience in these kinds of cases, like Robert does and like I do. Between the two of us, we've represented many thousands of people and in these exact types of claims. And we've done so at a very high level. Now, there are other lawyers who, for whatever their reasons are, they may be financial, they may be more laudable than that, but there are other lawyers who just don't have quite the experience. Does that mean they're not going to be good lawyers? No. Some of them may not be, but some of them may be perfectly fine. But what you need to know is when you're hiring a lawyer on a contingency fee percentage basis, we all pretty much charge more or less the same percentage. And so you have to ask yourself when hiring a lawyer, do you want to pay the same amount for a lawyer with almost no experience or no experience in this area? Or do you want to pay that attorney's fee to lawyers who have tremendous experience and a lot of years behind them in handling these kinds of cases? And that's a question for you to answer for yourself. But we're certainly here at any point to talk to you about what our experience is and why we think that what we think the roadmap is as to how we can bring you from where you currently are to a recovery that hopefully will maximize your potential to rebuild your home and to rebuild your lives. Now, unfortunately, while a lot of people have insurance, almost nobody's insurance is going to be enough to rebuild their home. That is almost a guarantee. Almost nobody's insurance is going to be enough to rebuild. And so what we do is we work really hard and with world-class experts to put together your individualized damages case to demonstrate your losses so that we can put your best foot forward to try to get you the maximum recovery we can get you. And make no mistake about it, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, but it's time well spent and it's very rewarding work. And at the end of the day, our ability to deliver that measure of justice to you is what makes it all worthwhile.
I'm a little more pessimistic than Eric is. I am witnessing firsthand a swarm of lawyers that specialize in criminal law, family law. They run what we refer to as personal injury mills, where they handle volumes of cases that are sweeping across the Los Angeles County, trying to sign up fire cases. The vast majority of these lawyers have zero experience in handling fire cases. the sad reality is these fire victims that end up with one of these firms are going to be victimized twice. First by the fire, secondly by the quality of their legal representation. And it's not just the legal representation. You're going to see floods of contractors coming into the area, trying to, quote unquote, get people back into their houses and making, far-ranging promises about, what they can do and how quickly they can get their home rebuilt. And many of these contractors are not licensed in California. They don't have a track record in California. And frankly, you should be very cautious about evaluating their credentials and their background and their experience.
Yes.
My biggest concern about some of the conduct that Robert refers to is when it comes to sort of traditionally marginalized communities. And one thing we know about the Altadena fire is that it destroyed one of Southern California's most vibrantly diverse communities that had a long history of service to those communities within the Altadena area. And there are people there who proudly called Altadena home for generations. And whether they come from Hispanic backgrounds, African American background, Asian background, there was this mix of people in the community that is multi-generational, and that ownership of property that goes back generations that's been lost. And you have a lot of people who, from all accounts, are going to be desperate to make it happen, to rebuild and to regain that community. And my fear is that without proper guidance, a lot of those people are going to get duped into entering into deals with contractors or whomever without necessarily seeing the writing on the wall that maybe it wasn't such a good thing to do.
This is perfect segue to my next question. First I want to say that the fire, it didn't discriminate. It touched a historically Black community that had generations of homeowners in the community. It touched different races and nationalities of people, different classes of people, even though they lived together. Someone may have purchased a home 10 years ago, another may have had that home for 30, 40 years that was passed down. And so in choosing representation in a case like this, they can't discriminate either. They have to choose a person, I think, in representation that has experience in dealing with this. And you mentioned the historical Black community. And so, and Hispanic and Asian. I know we're limited for time, but I just want to read you from Altadena, just some of the people. Claude Atkins, the actor, Maria Bamford, a stand-up comedian, Ramses Burden, an NFL player, Aja Brown, a former mayor of Compton, California, Owen Brown, an abolitionist, Octavia Butler, an author, Ellen Garrison, an African-American educator and abolitionist and early civil rights activist, Andre Coleman, a reporter and author, Hua Chang, a designer, sculptor, and artist, Fannie Charles Dillon, a composer, Kentura Davis, an author, Nashin Dion, a writer, Sterling Emerson, a geneticist, Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, Jonathan Gold, a Pulitzer Prize-winning restaurant critic, Zane Grey, an author, Keith Huffnagel, professional skateboarder, was a resident, Rodney King was a resident, Bob Lills, Major League Baseball player, Mo Martin, Edgar McGregor, Andrew McNally, Jim Merritt, Marty Nixon, a singer, Adam Stelzner, spacecraft engineer. So just a wide variety of people as I go through this list, and if you remember that the show Designing Women, and it had Meshach Taylor. Meshach Taylor is also from Altadena. And I mean, this, you look at this and you say, this community represented something and had a historical significance as well as others. So this is just one of many that was hit.
And I'll tell you, Damon, because from the time I was 3 until I was 18, I grew up just down, take the 134 to the 210 freeway and go a little ways, and you're in Claremont. And I grew up right down the road there in Claremont. And we always knew of Altadena as this like wonderful, diverse place full of creative, brilliant people who were tied deeply into the LA community, whether it was in terms of the arts, in terms of the sciences, in terms of, progress and social progressive movements within the LA community. And it was this big interconnected group of people that had so much to do with the fabric of everyone's life in the wider, grander LA framework. And it's just such a staggering loss to have a community like that torn apart like this, and to send all the threads of that community, if they then have to then get spread out throughout the much greater Los Angeles region, rather than being immersed together in that community that they had built and cherished and maintained for so long, it's really a loss to everyone.
So there's a method in your process. Can you speak to how you tell each client's story to not only preserve their history, but maximize their claim?
We tell the story of their core relationship to the place. We go in and we learn about how is it that they ended up being there at that address in Altadena. And some people's story in Altadena, on its surface, it's, oh, well, they bought a house a year ago. But that's usually not true. What ends up being true is, we scrimped and saved as a family, and we looked for 5 years or 10 years to find the perfect place. And then we found this house. And so while on the surface level, maybe they owned the house for a year, the deeper story is it's a human story of how a family came together to make home ownership possible in this region. And so it really is a much deeper story. Other people's stories are, my grandmother worked her hands to the bone to save enough money to put a down payment to buy a house. And then, she worked really hard to find a loan that she could get, because due to the color of her skin, she was getting turned away back then by banks and lenders. And then eventually it happened. And as a family, we struggled and we worked hard to keep this home in the family. It was our legacy. It was her legacy to us, and it was our legacy to our children and grandchildren. And now it's gone. And these are compelling stories that don't just come out with some low-level lawyer or law clerk or somebody writing out something for one of these mill law firms. This is highly dedicated creative work that our team puts into place in order to make sure that each person's individual story is told.